I just love this space. 13 years of laughing and crying and testimonies. I am really sad about losing this space.
One thing I will miss though, the children were directly above us. And there were times that we could hear their little feet marching around the room and just loving that they were there.
What's most important about these wooden floors and these plaster walls is that the Lord met us in them.
Losing the space is bittersweet, but knowing what's coming is what makes it exciting.
This was the original pastor's office for 13 years. It's been my office. Maybe hundreds of premarital sessions we've had here on this little love seat, and how many postmarital sessions and membership interviews, and people don't really drop by the church, but certainly a lot of appointments here where they're like, I am not going to Stella's. We are not going to be out in public. I just love this space. What you'll see is it's incredibly cozy. There's bookshelves everywhere. It was the best. You can see it had radiator heat, which was never adequate. And then with the first renovation, they did put in some central heat and air, which my good friends in the office beneath love to keep really, really cold in the winter. And so I love to always put on my coat when I worked here. So the best thing about having my own bathroom, of course, is it's about, in an office this small, it's truly 3 steps away. 3 steps away, but what's so great about it is it has those kind of privacy doors, where you go change in there. It's not just an outside door, it's got another door for privacy in there. I'm going to have a huge office comparatively, and it'll be very well air conditioned and heated, and there won't be any dust, any of that stuff. But it won't be anywhere near as cozy, and it won't be anywhere near as intimate, and it won't have, kind of 13 of my first years of figuring out what it means to be a pastor, and some of the hardest meetings I've ever had, some of the most amazing meetings, they've all been like right here. So I am really sad about losing this space. I'm very sad about it. It is important, though, to realize how much I'm looking forward to the visibility that we will have in this community of being a safe place. I mean, nobody talks about, we don't have any fire suppression in any of our children's spaces. There's not a fire exit. It's just wood and lath, as I think you saw, and that was what was protecting our children and nurseries for all these years. So having all of these new spaces, and when we're in our new offices, like in our temporary office on 21st Street, we're all going to be together, same hall, same hallway, and that'll really be fun. But I did want to give thanks to the Lord for giving me this time and this space with these people.
Well, when I did youth ministry at Trinity for 7 years, this was the room where my high school guys' small group would meet. So we would start upstairs, and then we would come down here, and this is where, we would really get into hard questions about faith, and where we would share meaningful, hard things that were going on in our lives, good things that were going on. We'd pray for each other over many years. And then I had this one group of guys who we used to play board games in this room. So they would come by after school, and we would meet here together. I would kind of get some food and some drinks, and we would just hang out playing board games for hours on end. And so I have a lot of good memories of this room. When I first got to Trinity, this space was being used by Urban Discovery Ministries to run a GED program. And they actually did a lot of the reclaiming of this space for us. They put down carpet, and they put in a buzzer that allows people to come up. And then when they moved out, we started to reevaluate the space. And eventually, a couple years ago, we decided to take down one of the walls that they had put up, and we made this nice big space into a 5th and 6th grade classroom. And so for the last couple of years, the 5th and 6th grade group has met here, and this has been their primary space. So we are now standing above the tips area, the main children's ministry area that we all know and love. And this right here is our drop ceiling. So if you're in that big gathering room of the children's ministry and you look up, we are above that. Now this drop ceiling is not original, of course. The drop ceiling was put in, we think, in the 90s, in part because this area up here had fallen out of use. What the room was originally intended for was for everybody to be able to gather in one room, and you'd all look down at the pastor standing down in the main children's ministry area. There'd be pews behind me, and there's essentially 3 levels of classrooms off of the main room. And what you can do then is have everybody start Sunday school together and then break up into their age-appropriate lessons or whatever way they want to group the small groups. Sunday school was a very high priority to the Disciples of Christ Church and to most Protestant churches in the 20th century. And this is really unique architecture because it was designed for this specific purpose. They built this building first, and we suspect they planned all along to build a sanctuary that was more suited for worship. So they built this building around World War I, and then about 10 years later, in the 20s, they built the sanctuary. So this is one of the organ chambers, and there are 3 organ chambers in the building. And when I first got here, I was introduced to a guy named Otto who works on our organ. And Otto took me up to the top, and we walked across the little catwalk to the back organ chamber. And he turned on, there's these lights that hang from the ceiling. It's the only light, and he turns those on, and then he heaves it up. So it's just swaying like this. It was terrifying being up there with these lights that are constantly moving, and he's walking across, and he's like, don't fall to the right or the left, you'll fall 50 feet. So anyway, what's really cool about this organ is that it's got all these different kinds of pipes. There's some big wood ones, there's a lot of metal ones, and they all make different sounds. There's even some that that are kind of more like chimes. And they all have different sounds. So when you hear about people talking about pulling out the stops, that's selecting the different sounds of the organ. And when you pull out all the stops, that means you're playing all the different pipes at the same time. And that's when it gets to its loudest. But so what essentially happens is the air flows through these pipes and makes sound. But each pipe only makes one note. So this is a B, and that's the sound it makes. And there's a bunch of others just like this, but you see the bigger pipes make lower sounds. And this organ is, they started working on it probably 90 years ago or so. And they actually added to it over several years. It didn't start with everything it had. In the 90s, they did a big refurbishment where they added electronics to everything. But what's amazing to me is somehow this organ worked pre-electronics. There was some way that they kind of made it all work, and that's always amazing to me. But then we came in, and unfortunately, just a lot of the woodwork of the chest, there's just so much leakage of air that it's had a good long life, but like all things, it must come to an end. But it's really a marvel of engineering. It's really the first computer instrument, and it's amazing what they were able to do before computers to get all these different pipes to play together. But it's essentially trying to replace an orchestra. Instead of an orchestra where you have, dozens and dozens of people who need to be playing all theirs, well, here, just one person can play an orchestra. It's really incredible.
We are here in the Welcome Center, and I want us to think about all of the things over the last how many years, it's been since 2007, that we have been in this room. We've been here for lots of receptions. We've been here for receptions for funerals. So I'm sure a lot of you have really sad memories about that. We've been here for wedding receptions. Those are happy memories. We've been here for mission conferences. So we've done lots of fun things down here. The kids, the youth group has been down here for different things. We have used it for camp. Part of camp was in here. The younger kids were down here. What I really want to talk about the most is women's Bible study, because that's a part of women's ministry. And so when we came here in 2007, our first service was at Easter. We had women's Bible study in September. And in the past, we just had little Bible studies in different homes. But we came here into our own space. We were so glad to be here, thankful for what God had given us. And we were down here with a little more than 20 women. Not very many, but here we were in this space. And we started then a long chapter of having Bible study every week for a lot of the year, for many years. So, you know, we are grateful for this space. It served our needs, it more than served our needs. So many friendships happened here. Yeah, we've learned about God's Word. I've seen tender conversations between women. It's wonderful. All that will happen in our new building. And I don't even know what the new Welcome Center is going to look like, but I understand it's going to have a lot of natural light, which will be lovely. And it won't have to be much better to beat what this space is. So we look forward to this next chapter in the life of Trinity and to see God's grace for us in what He's providing us in a new building. So I'm really excited about that.
It's really interesting. It's bittersweet being up here right now. There's so much that's been torn down, but there's so many memories that are still so rich in this room. It's really beautiful to come back and think about all the different times I've spent up here, that we've spent up here, the ways the Lord's met us in this simple room. And you know, I mean, when I first came here, when I was candidating for this room was in shambles then. And through the work of, you know, Becky Rohde and Julie Malcolm and Mark Henson, this place became our sacred space. It was beautiful. And now to see it ripped back apart is this interesting bookend of these 2 years I've been here. It's amazing how many hours I've spent pacing this room, praying for each one of the students, how many hours I've spent at the whiteboard that was right there trying to formulate what we're going to talk about that week and the sermon itself, and then how long I practiced before the students got in the chairs. But the memories that stand out are when we were all sitting here and when we were just opening the Word together and seeing the Lord move in the midst of the students' hearts and lives and our leaders as well. Two memories in particular stand out to me, and the first one is from our candidating trip. That trip was so interesting. Mike's got footage of when I was downstairs in the tips room playing Foursquare in a suit, because that is the ethos of this youth group, right? And so we did that, and then I came up here and they just, you know, introduced me to chair ball that day. And that memory in particular, what I remember is Lindsay and I had no idea what we were getting into, and the youth were all like, chair ball, and just so excited. And so we sat down in our chair, and like first move, Lindsay's chair gets snatched out from under her and she falls down and looks at me like, what have we gotten ourselves into? And how many times we've played since then and all the rest. That's always gonna be a piece of this room in my heart. But the other memory that just like sticks in my head is when we did the 24 for 24, the 24-hour movie marathon to raise money for this capital campaign. In fact, that was the youth's contribution coming alongside the church. And that was just fun and ridiculous and all the rest, as we were sitting there watching movie after movie after movie, and the kind of law of diminishing returns came to roost in our heart. And then it was dark, it got light, and then it got dark again, and that was again another point of just, what are we doing? And I think that feeling is what this room really lends itself to in my heart, is not knowing what's coming next. And yet the Lord is faithful. That what's most important about these wooden floors and these plaster walls is that the Lord met us in them.
So as you exit the sanctuary, possibly on your way to children's ministry area, you will have walked by this door many, many times. Has it occurred to you, what's behind the door? Does it go somewhere? Have you tried to open the door to find it locked? Making it even more curious. Well, the simple truth is it's not very an exciting answer. It is indeed a closet. Just a dumb little odd closet. But what makes this closet important to me is that from the moment we took possession of this building, every year in the months leading up to Christmas, I store all of my Christmas presents for my entire family in this closet. So the result is that my children have never, ever been able to snoop and find their Christmas presents because they have always been in this closet. And as a matter of fact, my kids don't even know that this is they know I keep the presents at church, but they don't even know that this is where it is. So I'm very tender towards this closet, and I will miss my Christmas closet a lot.
So this room was actually the original sanctuary for the building, built in about 1914. So, the original congregation came and worshiped in this space. What's really cool to me is how we've been able to convert this into a space that we continue to worship in, just our kids get to do that. So I've loved all the time that I've spent in here. Wednesday evening community groups, all the kids running around and playing games inside and doing Bible lessons together. My own kids spending hours and hours in here like it's their second home, sleeping where the couches were over there, or having dinner and snacks. The thing that comes to mind the most in this room is how on Sunday mornings this was Grand Central Station. Just all of these families coming when Sunday school's over to pick up their kids. And the kids are running all over the place. Some of them are saying goodbye to Miss Ricky in the 3-year-old room, or they're wanting to stay longer and finish coloring their page in the first grade class. But their parents come, and then their parents are congregating and talking together and enjoying time together. But this was my chance to just kind of watch things from the stage and watch the kids be with their parents and watch families interact with one another. It was a chance for me to look over everything and say, oh, that parent, I want to talk with them and connect with them. I haven't connected with them for a while. So it's one area that we won't get to have in the new building. We're going to have so many wonderful new, safer ways to do children's ministry, but we won't have this Grand Central Station. And I'm really going to miss that part. There's so many unique aspects to this building that you're just not going to get back in a new building, which does make it extra special. And I think for the kids, they knew this was their space and they could feel safe up in that space. And that's what we wanted them to have, is the ability to steal goldfish if they wanted to, or play with the ball and kick the drop ceiling out of place. So it was a place to gather for all, which was wonderful. I do feel really excited about moving into a new space because we're able to plan a space that's fit for our church, that's safer for our kids, a space that parents can bring their kids and say, okay, I know this place is not so confusing. It's a place where no strangers can come in the back doors. It's just a much safer situation. And I'm so excited about what we're going to be able to do going forward. Higher technology, easy access to the playground where the kids don't have to be carried up and down the stairs. And there's so many really great aspects. There are going to be rooms that are just kindergarten room, and it will be the kindergarten room. And we don't have to worry about sharing some spaces that sometimes do become a little difficult. And I'm so excited to see how our vision as the building team finally comes to fruition.